Nathan had never been good at blending in. Even on Earth, in a crowd of human faces, he looked like a misplaced glitch in the system. Awkward limbs, eyes darting at strange angles, a mouth that sometimes forgot the rules of polite conversation. Now, in the intergalactic bazaar of Zerith Station, he was not just awkward, he was spectacularly out of place. The bazaar floated in a cavernous dome of translucent alloy, with neon signs that curved in impossible geometries and merchants who seemed to defy gravity while juggling exotic wares. Nathan's boots clicked uncertainly on the smooth, shimmering floor as he muttered to himself about how someone could possibly mass-produce gravity-bending combs or flavor-adaptive chewing gum. "Do you ever wonder," he said aloud, mostly to no one, "if aliens actually brush their teeth with plasma or if it's just some elaborate cultural performance art?" His voice bounced off the high-tech stalls, drawing a few curious glances. One vendor, a gelatinous creature that resembled a puddle of liquid rainbow, wobbled in Nathan's direction and squelched a reply that sounded suspiciously like laughter. Nathan nodded politely, though he had no idea if the response meant hello or you're insane. He ducked under a floating sign advertising sentient snack pods, eat at your own risk, and stumbled over a small hover cart, sending a tray of levitating fruit spinning into the air. A plum orb zipped past his ear, leaving a faint trail of iridescent juice. "Perfect," he muttered. "First day in the bazaar and I'm already demonstrating my complete incompetence." And then he saw her. She stood near a stall selling miniature spacecraft models that hovered and pirouetted in zero gravity. At first, Nathan thought she was just another humanoid tourist. She was tall and elegant, with hair the color of dark copper and a smile that seemed mischievous in a very human way. But the ears, long, sleek, and pointed like delicate antennae, gave her away immediately. His brain froze for a second, tripping over all the polite phrases it had stored in preparation for meeting alien life. Nathan's private thoughts, which were normally a chaotic jumble of scientific speculations and embarrassing fantasies, went into overdrive. She's beautiful. No, stunning. No, wait, don't think about her body. Oh, of course you did. He cursed at himself silently because she seemed to know exactly what he was thinking before he even knew how to think it. Then she turned to him. Slowly, deliberately, as if reading his mind was the most amusing pastime in the universe. Her eyes locked onto his, glinting with a playful light, and she tilted her head, letting one long ear twitch in amusement. "So," she said, her voice smooth and teasing, "you like my body?" Nathan choked on a word he hadn't yet formulated. Well, it's your beautiful, yes, I." She laughed, a sound that bounced between musical tones, almost alien yet completely understandable, like a song someone forgot to give words to. Nathan's ears turned red. He tried to bow, but his balance betrayed him, and he stumbled into a floating display of tiny robotic pets. They zipped around in panic, beeping indignantly, while he mumbled apologies in 5 different languages at once. "You're not from around here, are you?" she said, still grinning as one of her long ears flicked toward the nearest errant drone. It floated back into place with a flick of her wrist. "No," Nathan admitted, straightening himself. "Earth. 3rd planet. You know, blue and green, gravity-bound, mostly harmless." He felt ridiculous explaining basic astronomy to a galactic traveler, and he knew he sounded like a fool. Lyra, he decided to call her Lyra, since it suited her mischievous grin, stepped closer, circling him with an easy, flowing movement that made his knees wobble. Her long ears twitched again, scanning his reactions like antennae picking up the subtle signals of his panic. "Earth, dangerous place. Volcanoes, tsunamis, killer bees. I hear you humans have invented something called reality TV. Brave souls." Nathan laughed nervously. "Well, yes, but we mostly try to survive the minor catastrophes." He gestured vaguely at the chaotic bazaar around them, like these gravity-hopping fruit vendors. Lyra's laugh was soft but contagious, making a nearby holographic display ripple as though echoing her amusement. She pointed at a floating plum that had paused in midair, suspended by her subtle wave of the hand. "You have potential," she said. "Not sure what for yet, but potential." Nathan blinked. "Potential for what?" Her smile widened. "For trouble, fun trouble, or maybe the kind of trouble that changes your life forever." She wiggled one eyebrow, and Nathan's mind conjured scenarios ranging from interstellar espionage to accidentally becoming a test subject in an alien fashion experiment. Trying to regain some dignity, Nathan attempted a witty remark. "I've been told I have unpredictable charm." He immediately regretted it when his words sounded feeble compared to her effortless confidence. Lyra's ears twitched again, clearly enjoying his struggle. "You're cute when you try," she said, tapping a fingertip to the hovering plum and sending it zipping gently into his chest. "But clumsy, very human, delightfully predictable." Nathan coughed as the plum bounced off him. "I'll take that as a compliment." "Take it however you like," she said, circling him once more. Her movement so fluid it made him feel like he was caught in a gentle gravitational wave. "But be careful. In this bazaar, a human who trips over fruit might also trip into adventures he wasn't ready for." The words hung in the air like charged particles, teasing him with both promise and chaos. Nathan realized he had no idea whether to be terrified or thrilled. Every instinct in his body told him to retreat, to blend back into the crowd of more competent spacefarers. But something in Lyra's playful gaze, in the way her long ears twitched with amusement, made him step forward instead. And that was when he knocked into a levitating cart selling tiny holographic pets again, sending 3 of them spinning toward the ceiling, where they performed an unintended synchronized dance before righting themselves. Nathan froze, certain that this was the moment he would be remembered forever as the human who can't handle zero gravity. Lyra clapped her hands lightly, a sound that made the floating pets jump. "Bravo," she said. "A standing ovation. I hope you don't get dizzy easily, Nathan from Earth, because in this place, life rarely waits for anyone who can't keep up." Nathan swallowed hard. I think I can manage," he said, and for the first time since arriving at the bazaar he believed it. "Maybe, just maybe." Lyra leaned closer, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper that only he could hear. "Good. Because the real fun is about to start." And with that she pivoted gracefully, her long ears trailing like ribbons of silk, and led him deeper into the swirling chaos of the bazaar, leaving Nathan stumbling behind, a mixture of fear, fascination, and something dangerously close to excitement bubbling in his chest. Nathan's legs ached in a way he hadn't known possible, a combination of human fatigue and the unsteady choreography of zero-gravity bazaar navigation. He tried to keep pace with Lyra, who moved as if the chaotic bazaar had been built to her rhythm alone, twisting gracefully around levitating displays and hovering drones. Every step, or lack thereof, he took sent him wobbling like a bobblehead caught in a microgravity storm. She glanced back at him, one long ear flicking as if marking the precise degree of his imbalance. "You're persistent," she said, her voice carrying that teasing lilt that made his stomach do somersaults. "Or just hopelessly clumsy." Both," Nathan said, nearly tipping into a stack of holographic storage crates. He caught himself at the last second, producing an awkward bow that looked more like a human hiccup than a graceful gesture. Lyra laughed, the sound bouncing through the artificial gravity field in irregular pulses, making some nearby floating advertisements ripple like liquid. "I like the honesty," she said, waving him onward with a hand that left a faint shimmer in the air, as if the very molecules respected her authority. "Follow me. There's a place I think you'll find educational." Nathan followed, tripping once, narrowly avoiding colliding with a sentient snack vendor that looked like a cross between a flamingo and a lava lamp. "Educational," he muttered, trying to keep his voice steady while thinking. "Or possibly life-threatening." He wondered if educational, in alien terms, meant being abducted into an interstellar game show, which sounded terrifying and absurd in equal measure. They arrived at a cafe suspended in midair, tables floating in soft orbits and patrons drifting lazily in various stages of relaxation. The cafe's decor was playful and surreal. A chandelier made of tiny orbiting planets, walls that shimmered with the colors of a distant nebula, and waitstaff that looked like crossbreeds between cephalopods and holograms. Lyra gestured for Nathan to enter first. "Please, try not to embarrass yourself before we're seated," she said, her voice carrying amusement rather than reproach. Nathan swallowed and stepped in, immediately spinning slightly as a gentle air current caught him mid-step. He landed sort of on a floating chair that tipped alarmingly. I think I'm okay," he said, gripping the edge for dear life. The chair wobbled like it was sharing in his terror. Lyra floated down to a nearby table effortlessly, her long ears trailing elegantly, and waved a hand. The table adjusted its orbit to bring her a drink, a shimmering liquid that changed color from violet to emerald with every rotation. Nathan blinked, unsure whether to marvel or to panic. What is that?" he asked. "Something that tastes like adventure," she said with a grin, lifting it to her lips. "And possibly regret. Depends on your perspective." Nathan hesitated, then mimicked her. The drink sloshed and spun in zero gravity, and when he tried to sip it, some of the liquid floated upward, forming tiny suspended orbs around his mouth. He coughed, sending a few toward the ceiling, earning a small chuckle from a hovering patron who looked like a neon jellyfish with arms. "You're hopeless," Lyra said, her ears twitching. "But I enjoy hopelessness in small doses. Entertaining." "Thanks, I think," Nathan said, wiping droplets off his chin. He tried to compose himself and glanced around. The cafe's patrons were a menagerie of alien species, some barely recognizable as biological, others clearly humanoid, but all moving with the sort of confidence he lacked entirely. One three-limbed creature floated past him, spilling what looked like liquid starlight. Nathan ducked, feeling every inch a comic human obstacle in a world designed for finesse. Lyra leaned back, resting her chin on her hand. "So, Earthman, tell me about your species, or don't. I enjoy awkward silences too, especially when they're yours." Nathan chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, humans, we're inventive. Mostly, we try not to kill each other with our own inventions." She raised an eyebrow, or maybe both. It was hard to tell with the way her ears flicked like sensors. "Impressive. And what kind of inventions?" Gravity boots, self-cleaning houses, reality TV, the usual stuff," he said, realizing belatedly that he sounded ridiculous. Lyra's laugh was a cascade of notes that shifted unpredictably. "Reality TV, you say? Ha! I see why Earth hasn't taken over the galaxy yet. But don't worry, I like unpredictability. It keeps life spicy." Nathan blinked. "Spicy, yes, definitely spicy." He made a mental note to invent a new word for terrified but intrigued. Their conversation continued, playful and teasing. Lyra asked questions about Earth that were both oddly insightful and comically naive. How did humans manage gravity? What was the purpose of socks? Why were most planets round and not square? Nathan answered as best he could, adding humor where he could, and every time he fumbled, she laughed, a sound that warmed his nerves like a strange, alien sun. She waved a hand, and the table reshaped itself into a miniature interactive star map, showing a galaxy Nathan had only read about in books. Lyra pointed to a blinking dot. "See that? That's where I grew up. A planet that thinks humor is an art form. You'd fit right in eventually, if you survive the first week." Nathan laughed, choking slightly on a sip of his drink that had formed a perfect orb around his tongue. "I think I'd like that, maybe." Lyra's ears twitched in amusement. "Maybe, that's the spirit, but first you have to navigate me, not an easy task." Nathan tilted his head. "Navigate you?" "Exactly," she said, leaning forward slightly, her smile teasing. You see, I like humans who struggle. It's fun. Their attempts at elegance are deliciously tragic. Nathan groaned, feeling simultaneously offended and flattered. Tragic, huh? I'll try not to be too tragic then. Lyra's ears flicked as if she were laughing again. Oh, don't try, embrace it. The chaos suits you. By the end of the cafe visit, Nathan had spilled exactly 3 floating drinks, accidentally activated a holographic display showing himself in awkward Earth dances, and learned a little about Lyra's home planet, her sense of humor, and her uncanny ability to make him feel simultaneously like a fool and the most interesting person in the galaxy. When they finally left, Lyra floated effortlessly to the exit while Nathan staggered behind, narrowly missing a patrol drone. Next stop, she said, glancing back with that signature playful grin, we find the thing humans call adventure. Or as I call it, potential for chaos. Nathan nodded, trying to keep his balance and his dignity. Potential for chaos. Right. He couldn't tell if he meant it literally or figuratively, but in Lyra's presence it probably didn't matter. As they stepped out of the cafe, the station stretched endlessly before them, a maze of platforms, glowing walkways, and bizarre, impossible architecture. Nathan realized that following Lyra was like walking a tightrope suspended over the universe. Thrilling, terrifying, and entirely unpredictable. He wondered how many times he would stumble, how many drinks he would spill, and whether he could survive the next encounter with a creature who could bend gravity, reality, and his heart simultaneously. And he also wondered, with a flush of embarrassment and excitement, if he had secretly been waiting for someone exactly like Lyra to appear in his life. Playful, alien, dangerous, and infinitely intriguing. Nathan staggered along the observation deck of Zerith Station, each step an awkward negotiation with the artificial gravity field, which fluctuated just enough to make him feel like a particularly clumsy astronaut in a zero-gravity ballet. Lyra floated beside him, her long ears trailing like elegant banners behind her, catching the soft lights of the swirling nebula outside the panoramic window. He was exhausted, exhilarated, and entirely unprepared for the thoughts that had taken residence in his mind since the bazaar. You seem contemplative, Lyra said, her voice teasing but gentle, carrying the peculiar cadence of someone who had centuries to observe human neuroses. She tilted her head, letting one ear flick once twice, as if measuring the precise degree of his internal chaos. Nathan exhaled, realizing he'd been staring at the nebula for far too long. I guess I've never been anywhere like this before. I mean, look at it. The stars, the light, the everything. And I've spent my whole life thinking the universe was mostly boring numbers. Lyra laughed softly, a sound that made the floating drinks from earlier look like harmless, grounded objects. Boring numbers can surprise you, she said, especially when they end up tangled with living beings who trip over everything and call it charm. I think I might actually be learning, Nathan said, surprised at the admission. He realized that following Lyra had forced him into situations where failure was inevitable, and yet he had survived, laughed, and even enjoyed it. I mean, I've always thought being careful and precise was the best way to live. But maybe not always. Lyra's grin widened. You've been upgraded, Nathan, from Earth. New protocol, embrace the chaos. It makes life amusing and sometimes meaningful. She floated closer, letting the tip of one ear brush against his shoulder in a gesture that was intimate but not threatening. I like humans who are adaptable. You're far clumsier than I expected, but also far braver than I thought possible. Nathan blushed, trying to hide it behind a cough that sent him wobbling toward a floating railing. He caught it just in time, realizing that the station's safety protocols had more faith in him than he did himself. Brave, huh? I think I mostly survived by accident. Lyra's ears twitched, a smile dancing in her eyes. Accidents can be the best teachers, she said, pointing toward a cluster of tiny satellites orbiting the station outside. Look at those. They drift, collide occasionally, and somehow end up in the right place. Like you, Like us in this moment. Nathan laughed nervously, following her gaze. I suppose that's poetic and terrifying. You're learning quickly, she said, giving him a playful nudge with her elbow. The gesture sent a minor ripple through his balance, forcing him to grab a railing, but he found himself laughing instead of panicking. Terrifying can be fun. Terrifying can be life. He paused, letting the moment sink in. The chaos of the bazaar, the floating cafe, the absurd conversations, and Lyra's playful teasing had taught him something he hadn't expected. He could exist in a world that didn't conform to rules he understood and still find his place. More than that, he could enjoy it. Lyra's expression softened, her long ears lowering slightly in a gesture Nathan had come to interpret as sincerity. You've changed, Nathan. You're not the same human who tripped over floating fruit an hour ago. You're curious, alive. You notice things, you laugh at yourself, and you don't run from the unknown. Nathan swallowed, feeling a warmth that had little to do with the station's climate control. I suppose you're right. I feel different, not just because of all this. He gestured vaguely at the station and the stars, but because of you. Because of this encounter. Lyra's smile deepened, and for a brief moment the teasing vanished, leaving only quiet affection. Encounters change us, and sometimes they show us that the universe is more alive than we thought. Humans are strange, chaotic, and utterly fascinating. You've survived my version of the galaxy's funhouse and come out. Well, you. Nathan chuckled softly. And who knows, he said, glancing at her long ears twitching with amusement. Maybe I've finally found someone who appreciates my accidents. Lyra laughed again, the sound mingling with the hum of the station's energy fields and the distant roar of a nearby nebula. Accidents can be delightful, Nathan, especially when they lead to connection. He felt a thrill of courage, the kind that had nothing to do with physics or engineering. Then I suppose, he said, taking a tentative step closer, I'd like to see where this accidental connection goes. Careful, Lyra teased, drifting nearer. I tend to bend reality, test limits, and make humans look ridiculous. You're walking into potential chaos, remember. Nathan grinned despite himself. I'm counting on it. They stood there, two figures against the vast nebula, humans and aliens, clumsy and elegant, curiosity and confidence entwined. The station around them hummed and shimmered, a monument to the improbable, a place where even a fumbling earthling could matter. I think, Nathan said finally, that I'm ready for more. More chaos, more adventure, more this. Lyra's long ears twitched in approval. Good, because the galaxy doesn't wait for perfection. It waits for people willing to stumble spectacularly and laugh all the way. Nathan laughed, imagining all the floating fruit, spilled drinks, and absurd misadventures that had brought him here. And somehow he felt stronger, braver, more alive than he had ever been. The world, the universe, the bazaar, everything, suddenly seemed less threatening and far more wondrous. Then let's go, Lyra said, extending her hand in a gesture that was both challenge and invitation. Nathan took it, steadying himself, feeling the strange gravity of her confidence pulling him forward. Together, they drifted toward the station's central hub, past floating gardens, glimmering trade platforms, and clusters of travelers who had long since learned to navigate chaos with grace. Nathan stumbled once, then found his footing, laughing at himself. Lyra's hand never wavered. Her long ears caught the light of the nebula like ribbons, her smile unwavering. Nathan realized he had changed. The human who had been timid, awkward, and endlessly calculating had become something new. Open, adaptable, willing to embrace uncertainty, and even unexpectedly enjoy it. And Lyra, with her playful confidence and alien elegance, had shown him that life's gravity was not meant to be fought, only danced with. The stars outside stretched endlessly, and Nathan knew that wherever the galaxy led next, he was ready, not just to survive,